Welcome to JCAL's Journeys. Discover the beating heart of Southeast Queens' vibrant creative community as the Jamaica Center for Arts and Learning proudly present this limited episode podcast series, exploring arts and culture in Queens. Hosted by none other than your civic engagement strategist and Queens girlie Tunisia Morrison, this series takes listeners on an enriching journey to uncover the stories, inspirations, and cultural influences that define some of Queens' most celebrated creatives. We are welcomed today by an amazing photographer, Elias Williams. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course, Elias, can you start by telling us more about your journey as a photographer? Are you from Queens?
I'm originally from Queens.
Okay, that's all that matters. You don't even have to go any deeper. That's all we needed to
All
know.
right.
I just wanted to make sure that base was down. Okay,
Yeah.
can you tell us more about your journey as a photographer originally from Queens?
Yeah. So, um, I would say, while this is based on Queens, like I think I started my journey during my transition from living in Queens to the Bronx, and having um the space to like look back and reflect on how different Queens and my part of Queens was different from the Bronx to yeah, it just gave me time to appreciate the differences. And so that kind of influenced me to, do work on my hometown. And throughout the process of doing that, I was going to school at LaGuardia Community College. I met some really good, great people there. Some people that became close friends. One person is Rodolfo Diaz and Stephen Chalmers. Rodolfo had passed away in 2021. He was 35, 35, 34. But it was those two people that were, photographing their own communities and doing so with so much dignity and respect to the people in front of the camera that I sort of wanted to emulate that same visual language that they were using, um, to highlight my own hometown. So, you know, you know,
So,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I was going to say, first and foremost, sorry about your loss. And I know Rodolfo will be very happy to know that he's still having impact, even with him not being here. But you talked about
Mhm.
that transition from the Queens to the Bronx. And I just wanted to touch on that just for a little second. What were some things that were just vastly different for you, experiencing both of those different type of communities?
So one where I grew up in St. Albans, it's very almost like along the lines of a suburban like experience, knowing that you're not too far from Jamaica Ave, where all the hustle and bustle is for that part of the neighborhood. But you know, I think people acknowledged each other a little bit more than what I was used to when I ended up moving to the Bronx. And it's just the way things are. I learned to not take it any type of way. Um, but it's definitely louder, busier, and like probably more crowded. And these were differences that I just learned to come to terms with and sort of appreciate, you know. But those, I would say those things were like the immediate differences, for me, you know. Um, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, and in those differences, I think, there are also so many similarities in that, your projects, a lot of your projects focus on historically underrepresented communities, which the Queens and Bronx both have in common. What inspired you to take on those type of projects, and how has your work influenced or shaped the narratives for those communities?
Um, yeah, like so a lot of these projects that I ended up working on, um, the long-term projects that I end up working on have some personal connection to myself and my own journey and my own interests. Um, so I would say that, you know, being familiar with those communities helped me shape the narratives in ways where like I can pinpoint things that aren't familiar to most people, whether it be, you know, somewhere just outside of the neighborhood and people just have outsider perspective and are interested in looking in. And what I'm really what I'm really trying to do is just show that there is so many commonalities amongst us all. Um, I'm not too I'm not too dedicated to like, trying to change people's minds, but it's like just trying to show that, other people exist and deserve the same respect as other parts of the world, other cultures that we seem to favor more so than others.
If you're looking for an affordable, accessible way to grow as an artist, check out JCAL Arts classes. JCAL's cornerstone year round programs offer high quality visual and performing art classes and workshops for youth, adults, families, and seniors. Classes include piano, painting, cartooning, animation, fashion design, ceramics, acting, and much more. Learn more about our classes at jcal.org. That's a fact. How do you believe art, particularly photography, plays a role in igniting such type of social change or societal change?
That's a good question. I think letting social change. Like there was a point where, you know, I guess it was just important to me, to just simply show where I was from and, what I could relate to. Um, but I don't know. I gotta give me a second on that one. Hold on.
No, that's okay
Um,
because I'm gonna help. I'm gonna help bring you there. So
yes.
I got you. Don't worry about it. So I mean, I flowers are deserving, right, for the work that
Right.
we do, and you are an amazing photographer that has had the doors open for you to work with Photoville Festival. I think I saw the Morris Museum,
Right.
Museum of Art, and the Museum of the City of New York. I've seen your clippings in Apple, Bloomberg Markets, Essence, HuffPost. You're big on Instagram, New York
Yeah,
Times, Time, and the Wall Street Journal. And most important that I want to make sure that we highlight today that can flow into this question so amazingly is your work with National Geographic. And let's just take a moment to talk about what that was, what that experience was like for you. And then we can double back to that question because I think we're going to answer it ourselves.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So the National Geographic thing, I had, at that point, I had probably been working on my project for like close to 10 years and had gone through many phases with the work and changing like what it meant for me as I was growing with the work. And I felt like I just got to a good place where I felt comfortable sharing it with National Geographic.
So what was it
Um,
first? Let's tell the listeners what was that work that you were working on for so long.
oh, right. Yes. There's a project on my hometown focusing on, St. Albans and home ownership, black home ownership in St. Albans, and sort of to not only bring more recognition to St. Albans and the culture surrounding it, but also to add on to the conversation around black home ownership. And so being in a position to work with National Geographic gave me access to, academics that could talk about it much further than I can. And, you know, having access to a team that could put together graphs to like really visualize all of this in the greater context of black homeownership in the United States. So these are all things I was thinking about going into this. Like, how can I, because like most publications need a like a reason, quote unquote, to publish a work like that, body of work like that. So, you know, I knew how valuable the history of Black homeownership was in St. Albans and how much of it isn't known. So how can I bring that history to the forefront while also talking about a greater conversation around Black homeownership that isn't discussed? And more so in a positive light while still acknowledging things like the housing crisis and how that really sort of broke up a lot of families in Southeast Queens in general, let alone St. Albans, you know. So um when I had trouble getting in contact with people who lost their homes, it just made me double down and focused on people that are still here and have a valuable story to tell, no matter how big or small, and no matter their background, you know,
So,
all of
so I'm
those
interested to
things.
know, you were working on this already, or was this something that you pitched to Nat Geo?
This is something I pitched to Nat Geo, and I mean I was both working on it, and it was something I pitched to Nat Geo. So it was yeah.
Okay, and then please tell our listeners like what came out of this experience. What you were working with Nat Geo, you were getting these stories untold. What was the outcome? What was the end goal? What happened?
Yeah, so the pitch that I sent to Nat Geo led to a 24-page story that featured St. Albans. And
Mm-hmm.
there, yes, yes, in October 2021. Um, and it was amongst the last few of their magazines before they made the decision to stop making magazines, you know? So that that's crazy to know. And two, I made it a point to make the magazine accessible to people in the neighborhood. So I was able to convince Nat Geo to bring free copies to local libraries so people just walk in and grab a copy. Because it's like, I don't mean to brag, but it's
Go
basically
ahead.
it's a collector's item, a little something like that, you know, to have a Queens community in National Geographic is no small thing for me. And I've seen how slim the archives are of visuals for St. Albans and the history of St. Albans. So this is my way of adding on to that, you know. It's like I feel like
First and
this community,
foremost,
yeah,
we brag over here. Let's just get that out the
yes,
way. We're gonna brag. We're gonna brag on the
cool,
work, okay? Because
yes,
because the work deserves that. That's just number one. But number two, Elias, when I asked you, how do you believe your art, particularly photography, plays a role in igniting social change? The stories, and that is just one of the many, for me at least, of where that starts. I'm don't even know if you know this, but I met you at an Adelaide Park Civic Association meeting because you were on a tour about your work with Nat Geo. Okay, this is still in COVID, and you made sure that you went to Civic Association meetings to tell
yeah,
people about these stories untold. So it didn't just stop at you capturing the work so amazingly. It then went for you to tell the stories. It then went to you to publish those and amplify those, right? And then you brought it and recycled it back into that community to make sure that you told that community that they are seen, that they are heard, that they are powerful, and that they are doing. So I just want to be very clear. When I asked you that question, it was because it was rhetorical. All right. The
all
work
right,
speaks for itself in so many ways. And I wanted to know from your perspective, but you kind of just answered the question, right? And I just hope our listeners understand that a lot of the times, and for people of color and specifically Black people, something that came out of COVID, we say a lot for people that don't know is that Black people are not a monolith, right? We are not one person. We don't have one thing. And something that came out of civil rights movement so well, which a lot of it was birthed for places like Addison Park and St. Albans, was that we had jazz musicians and actors and writers
all
who
right,
were amazing in their fields, but they were still there to ignite social change because they were Black and, right? They were
Right.
Black and a photographer.
Right.
They were Black and an artist. They were still dealing with things that were happening in their communities. They still had basic human and civil rights that they were still needed justice on. And you touched on it, really quickly, that you said, yeah, I wanted to capture these untold stories about St. Albans, but I also wanted to still lend a hand to the housing crisis that was happening. How many, from Southeast Queens to Crown Heights and Bed-Stuy to Harlem, how all of these communities went through a great migration to locking in these homes and building their economic power and their housing power and all these political power,
Mm-hmm.
to then also still lose that, right? And to also still have people fighting for that. So I just want to make sure I'm amplifying that this is a cyclical thing. You recycled it all the way back. You didn't just say, I want to take these dope photos and meet these cool people and hear about these stories. You said, no, it needs to be archived. You said, actually, no, there's stories to be told. You actually
Right.
said there's probably somebody who came to St. Albans right now who is of color, who actually has no idea about the ground that they're walking on. You said that there are things that can be done to continue to make sure that they're maintaining that economic power and that housing power. You were saying that,
Right.
hey, California, hey, Atlanta, hey, South Carolina, there are people in New York who have went through this and still exist in this. And I mean, humble brag or not, one of the last copies that are existing of the Natural Geographic print. So, like, please, okay, it is
Well,
photography
there
is
it
definitely
is. All
playing a
right.
role,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Your
For
photography
sure.
is definitely playing a role in so many different lenses, that the photography and your beautiful photography is just the foundation,
Hmm.
right? Like, it is literally just the foundation of all these other amazing things that could spark. So if you didn't know, I just want to make sure
Oh,
we're
no,
doubling
no.
back,
We're good. Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. No,
And making sure
100%.
that people
Yeah.
do that. Awesome.
I
Okay,
mean,
so
it's like,
go ahead.
yeah. I mean, I guess to go on with what you're saying right now, it's just, I mean, when you ask that question, it's like, I mean, it's photography, then it's also action. It's like you can't let the pictures sit in a drive or in a box and, you know, not do anything with it. It's like it ends. I mean, there's much more to the process than making pictures. So, yeah.
In your opinion, how are community spaces like the Jamaica Center for Arts and Learning vital in breaking down barriers and making art more accessible to everyone?
I mean, it's it's I always say like not everybody can go to places like Chelsea or Midtown Manhattan or the Museum Mile. Sometimes that's out of the way for a lot of people, especially on a work day when a lot of these openings often take place. Um, so that's very important to me. And also, like people don't necessarily feel. It's been like very apparent to me that most people don't feel comfortable in those types of settings because it's just you think that it's because it's in a sort of I guess well-to-do neighborhood in the city. You know, think you sort of expect things to be a certain way, and I feel like places like JCAL, places institutions that are like accessible in the communities. Um, are super important because you just feel like you're around your own people and there's no expectation to be a certain way or and oftentimes the work isn't in other places the work isn't reflective of the people that are going out of their way to see it so um to have them in to have it in places like local communities is everything
That was a
it's
bar.
like why
I
can't we
just need you to
have
say that. Say that one more time. Usually what? Like, just say it again, because I just want to make sure everybody heard that.
usually I'm not good at that. I'm not good at
So
like
you
repeating
said
things. So
it's all good. I got you because you said that usually the people who are going out of the way to see certain works are not even reflective
yes,
of them.
yes,
And I just
right.
think that that was important to your point about places like JCAL, where literally it's your cousin, it's your friend, it's your sister, it's the woman who your teacher growing up, it's your fifth grade teacher who you didn't know loved art and is creating dynamic works that you can
Yes.
see where this it's not really good parking, but you could take the dollar van, you could
Mm-hmm.
take a Uber over
Mm-hmm.
there.
Yeah.
And it's easily accessible to your community.
Right.
Thank you so much, Elias. I have to say, young man, I am very, very proud of you, but
Thank you.
also I am in awe of your humility. You literally just said, and it's just so many little gems. I have to make sure I amplify them because you just said that you are enjoying being a beginner again. And I want to make sure I don't like leave those things to just like flow through what our listeners are
Mm-hmm.
hearing
Mm-hmm.
because you are someone who has worked on a specific craft for a while. Like you said, it's in the last few years you've emerged in a different way. The fruits of your labor are here and are proven, and you're continuously growing in that. But you also find joy and humility in learning new things and being able to take on a new project. And I think if
Yes.
anybody wanted to know if there was a secret sauce, right? If there was something there, I think it is your ability to say, I like that challenge, and I received that challenge, and
Mm-hmm.
I embrace that thing, and I embrace learning that new thing. And I think if anybody asks me from this, why do you think Elias is seeing this recognition and success? It is because of your ability to stay humble and still take action because you're not above doing any of that. So I just wanted to make sure I acknowledge that and give you your flowers and say thank you. We are so
Appreciate that.
proud to call you a Queensite. We, the Bronx can borrow you, but you're ours. And I
Yes.
just want to say thank you so much on behalf of JCal and on behalf of our listeners for being with us today.
Oh no, thank you. Thank you. It was an honor.
Appreciate it. Okay, see you soon.
All right.
Bye.
All right.
We are welcomed today by Mr. Steve Kroon, a percussionist, a professional musician for over the last 50 years, and we're just really happy to have him. Welcome, Mr. Kroon.
Hi, how are you? Great to
I'm
be here.
well.
Thanks.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Fine. Yeah. I'm excited about this. It's really nice.
Oh, awesome. Well, let's just jump right in. Can you
Yeah.
share some of your experiences and memories of growing up in Queens, particularly in St. Albans, and how it influenced your musical journey?
Well, yeah, I'm glad to do this because I think the history of Queens the legacy is so important. And I think I think it's been overlooked too because it was a very special time, especially the 50s and the 60s. My family, we came from Spanish Harlem. My parents was first generation from Puerto Rico, and they moved to Spanish Harlem. So my beginnings was there, my root was there, which was incredible. The Harlem in the 50s was killing, was off the charts, musically and everything. And even as a baby, I mean, the music was just the spirit was just so lively and so real. So when my father came to us, and I had three brothers. My father came and said, "We're going to move to Queens." Man, we said, "What? Queens? What is Queens?" We didn't know where we were going. Musically, at that time, we were my parents, especially my father, were very heavily influenced with Latin music. My cultural music from Puerto Rico, like Cotijo and Tito Puente and Machito, and all. My father was like big on that in the house, and we always had music playing. So when we moved there, my one of my greatest mentors, influences. I have three brothers, but one was named Bobby Robert, and Bobby was wow. He was it. He was the one in the family that He was like everything. He was Mr. Popularity. He was funny. He was charming. He had the gift of gab, and he was very musically inclined. And I just wanted to be like him, or I just wanted him to like me. I was very in awe of my brother. And at that time, very early age, he was also into doo-wop. Frankie Lyman and Teenagers, and the Drifters and Spinners, and I mean not Spinners, the Flamingos, and all those incredible groups were out. And we started first forming a doo-wop group. And in forming a doo-wop group, man, at that age, when my brother heard me sing at 12, 13, I had that Frankie Lyman voice. So I became the lead singer of the group. Anyway, as we moved around, started meeting a lot of friends and all, then we realized who our neighbors were, And all of a sudden, we lived on 171st and Foch. If you go right around the corner, it's right where the gate of Roy Wilkins Park is. Okay? And back then it was called Sandy Hills. It was like a jungle. We used to go camping there. Okay? So anyway, as I started meeting friends and all, there was a man right on the corner of my house by the name of Henry Glover. Henry Glover came from Cincinnati. He came from Ohio. He was like the Quincy Jones of that time. He was a very heavy producer. He was producing for King Records in Cincinnati, and he was producing James Brown. The first, almost like 10 years of James Brown's career was on King Records, and Henry was producing him. And Little Willie John, and Bubba Johnson. He wrote "Since I Fell for You," and he was influential in all these R&B groups and at the time in blues groups.
Become an official JCAL member for just $100 a year for free creative workshops, seminars, and enrichment opportunities year-round. Members also get 20% discounted access to our full lineup of classes and workshops. Through key partnerships, JCAL is also able to offer members deeply discounted parking passes on Jamaica Avenue and Broadway tickets starting at just $20. What are you waiting for? Head to jcal.org and become a member today.
Any long story short, me and my brother, we went to him when we was 13. We wanted him to sign us. And he kind of smiled. He wanted to laugh. I know he did. But he was very impressed that we had that much love in him. But he became a mentor. He really felt something to me, and he helped me immensely. I used to just go by his house, and I would see groups like the Cleftones, where he produced Heart and Soul for the Cleftones. And I would go by. I heard the rehearsal. He produced "You Give Me Fever" for Little Willie John. He used to come by his house. Arthur Pricestock used to come by his house. Arthur lived 4 blocks away from me. Joey Dean and Starlight, he wrote the Peppermint Twist. They used to come by. I mean, this guy, it was phenomenal. And then after he finished doing the King Records, he started working for Roulette Records with Morris Levy. So then he was doing down in Washington, and Eddie Lockjaw Davis, famous saxophone player, he lived right around the corner from me. And we knew his daughter, and his family and all. So I used to watch him pass by my house because he was going to rehearsal at Count Basie's. Count Basie lived about 4 blocks down. He lived on the other side of Linden, in Adley's Park. So I would see him walking with his saxophone and, all dressed in black. He was very cool, man. And he walked by and hey, how you doing? Mr. Davis. He said, how you doing, Stevie? And just keep walking. And what was also impressive about that neighborhood is at that time, the 50s and 60s, on that same block that he lived next door to him was my pediatrician. We had an Afro-American doctor, man, Dr. Winters. And on the corner was another Dr. Hill. Him and his wife were both doctors. They had their office right there. In our neighborhoods, not only we had the musicians, we had black dentists, we had lawyers, we had judges. I mean, it was, it was really a time there. We had our own bank, the Carver Bank. I mean, that area was really, really, we should really explore and go back to really what that whole era was about because it's very fascinating.
Yeah, I have to agree. First of all, wow, I'm jealous.
But
Uh,
also, real quickly, besides
yeah.
that, 4 blocks away was Lester Young. I knew his son, Lester Young Jr. I used to hang out with him. And I said Arthur Price stop. Bubba Johnson was there. Um, a few more, few blocks away was Count Basie, Illinois Jacket. Um, what's it? Milt Hinton, Leno Horn. Incredible, man. And at the same time, we also had all the doo-wop groups, man. We had the Heartbeats, we had the Exciters. I Know Something About Love. There was a brother by the name of Herb Rooney that became really a big producer. He was a good friend of mine. We had the Toys. I mean, there was so much talent around there. And besides that, we had clubs. We had very famous clubs at that time. There was the Club Ruby. I don't know if you ever heard about that. Club Ruby was like, that was it. Um, yeah, Coltrane played there because Coltrane lived out there for a while. Roy Haynes lived out here. Well, Coltrane used to play there. Um, Lady Day and Prez used to perform there. Uh, Arthur Price, I mean, it was like the cream de la creme, or you know, worked in there. And me and my brother worked there one time. We opened up for Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells,
Wow.
and we had ballrooms out there. You had the Linden Manor, you had the St. Albans Terrace. I mean, these were ballrooms, man. Right on that block on Linden too, we had a movie theater called the Linden Manor. And that movie theater, every Wednesday, we had talent shows. And all these groups, man, because you had the 40 Projects, you had Baisley Park, yeah, all these all these neighborhoods had incredible groups, man.
Mm-hmm.
And the talent show, everybody will come with talent, and they choose one to pick one and all. But we saw the Toys there, we saw the Exciters there, we saw one year, Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers just broke up, and their bass, Sherman, he used to hang out with my brother. And he came and he sang Tropical Paris by himself and turned the place out. Turned it out. He won.
I have to say,
I
Mr.
mean,
Kroon, I'm a little jealous of just hearing
hey,
you talk about these stories. I grew up in the
I mean,
wrong era.
there's so many stories. I mean, so many hip things that happen, man. I mean, it's amazing, man.
I
It
mean,
should
but
be
that
really.
that cultural impact, I must say, still is so prevalent. You feel it in Southeast Queens. You walk down these blocks, you visit Adelaide Park, you go to Roy Wilkins. It is existent in the fabric that people like you and those before you've
Absolutely.
created. So I think
Absolutely.
that leads me to my next question, which is, how did the cultural diversity and vibrant music scene of Queens shape your musical appreciation and style during your formative years?
Wow. I was very fortunate that from first having in my beginning thing, just really knowing so much about culturally the Latin music, the Latin side from my parents, man, and then being able to move into that environment and be surrounded so much with jazz artists and all, and having friends and being explained to me that, the chemistry and the whole change in that, and the doo wop. I mean, uh, one thing to my advantage, I was always open minded. I like what Duke Ellington said. There's only two kinds of music, good and bad. You know, and I took it all in. Me and my brother Bobby was like that too, man. We listened to everything, man. I mean, we was open to all that stuff. We were going to all those clubs and hanging out. At 15, 16 years old, man, we were going into all these clubs in different places and all to actually see things happening. And a lot of the offspring, the kids of our that generation, they went on. We all was starting to do great things on their own. You had a social club. They were called the Kingsmen. His brother named Tony Cooper, and him and around 5 or 6 other guys, man. Uh, CB and Barry and they all started this club. And from that club, they started giving dances in the St. Albans Terrace. From the St. Albans Terrace, they started a club called Leviticus. Leviticus was incredible at that time. You know, it was our own little jazz spot and all like that. But we had so many little jazz clubs too. We had Gerald's, you had the Linden Manor, you had the Door, you had Leviticus, you had the St. Albans Terrace, you had Carmichael's. You know, there was so many little things that had catering for clubs and all. And the blessing was there's so many of us that we had houses, we had basements, so we'd have jam sessions in our basements, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I want everybody in the neighborhood to have something special to see, and like everyone come out and enjoy everybody else's stuff. You know, this is what I think is important now. You know, because there's still a lot of great artists out here. These young kids out here, man, they ain't no joke. Besides the rap, they got some good, you know, and especially the women. What I'm really impressed about the women, especially the vocalists. If you look at today's artists, especially R&B and the women, not only they can all sing, but they all got their own style.
Yeah,
you don't see anyone following, wanting to sound like Beyonce. Even she's great, and she got her. Everybody's got their own little thing.
It's true.
Jennifer Hudson got her own thing. They all got their own little bag, and they all killing it.
That is so true.
Alicia Keys you can name them all, and they all got their own identity. They all, they're writing great songs. They're doing, they're really doing a lot, man. I think that's what's kind of keeping the R&B legacy alive.
Well, as a woman myself, I will have to give us a pat on the back and say that, we've really been running the world. And I'm really happy to see women chasing their dreams like this, and all the non-binary people as well. I have a last question for you. Could you talk about any of your upcoming projects or collaborations that our listeners should look out for? How can they stay connected with your musical journey?
Yeah. Well, we still, working all around. Matter of fact, I'm doing Hollis Presbyterian Jazz Festival this Saturday. And I do a lot of, I'm glad at least the Queens thing has opened up a lot for me too. I usually also do the St. Albans Jazz Festival too every January. And then with JCAL, I've always worked there at least 2 or 3 times a year too. And now doing the curating for them, I'm looking forward. I hope everybody looks forward to this program I put together for them for next year. I'm really excited about that, because I see this as my way of making a difference and stepping up too, So we got new projects that we're working on, and we're constantly trying to just keep on moving and progressing, It ain't easy out here, but it ain't never gonna be easy anyway. You got to do what you got to do. But I'm having a great journey, man. And things at this stage, I see a lot of new horizons. And this is a new thing for me too. And I'm so honored that I'm being able to talk about. I've been wanting to talk about this stuff for so long because I got so much info on it. And hopefully I could one day do a panel where I could bring some of my friends that also they know the story too. And we could sit down and explain, have real open discussion on that whole time.
Well, it might be sooner than you think. It might be sooner than you think.
Well, I know I'm in a good place.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that, and I'm thankful. And hey.
Well,
Ain't
Mr.
nothing like
Kroon,
tomorrow.
I just want to say on behalf of Queens, we love you and thank you. Thank you for not only moving here, staying here, deepening your roots here. Thank you for giving us your music ability, your talent. Thank you for being a friend of Queens and a family member of Queens. And we're really, really excited to not only see more that you have going on at JCAL, but to continue to pull some of that stuff out your brain and understand the need to archive this history and make sure that we always keep Queens in mind. We appreciate you. Do you have any last words? Anything you want to give to the people?
Well, number one, thank you. That was very well said. And no, I'm just like I'm really feeling, something that you've wanted to say for a long time and touch for a long time and feel something like I see something happening. You know what I mean? And I just want to be able to leave some of this behind. Then just in my brain, I want to, there's so much. I just want to get out there and I see it starting to come, and I'm really happy.
It's definitely important to archive history, and we can't do it without you. So we'll definitely be back soon and to get more of you and your friends' stories so that we can make sure that they don't go untold. Thank you so much for your time and being a part of JCAL's journey.
Thank you. On the one.
Get into the arts at Jamaica Center for Arts and Learning. Our mission is devoted to offering quality visual, performing, and literary arts and to providing accessible education programs to encourage participation in the arts. We present free events and festivals ranging from film to dance, theater, music, and more. On the visual artist side, we mount exhibitions, artist talks, and initiatives in our 2 galleries. Whether you are into classes, workshops, exhibitions, or events, there is something for you at JCAL. Learn more at jcal.org.